Gold continues to be a major story in the investment markets around the world, actually. That's why we're fortunate to have the head of Border Gold with me. Of course, gold, silver, platinum, etc. Rob Levy joins me. Rob, let's start with the kind of back off we finally saw. I mean, we peaked at about 4,400 and then chopped off $400 pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, the volatility would just stop you in its track, Mike. It's unbelievable. But I think it was even said on this program and many other, just the speed, the velocity at which gold accelerated and went higher meant when eventually that pullback came, there was going to be some quick liquidation, and that's exactly what we saw. With I think it was Tuesday this past week, the biggest single day sell off in gold and silver all the way back to 2020 when it was down in the realm of 5%.
Mm-hmm. Well, and again, not a surprise because people have to remember it's not just individuals buying, but it might be commodity traders. There might be leverage involved. There might be someone who bought it at 2,000 and says, I'm happy to take out my 100% profit right now. I mean, there's just so many different motivations, whether to buy or sell. So I'm never surprised after the kind of parabolic move we got that you'd get an abrupt downturn.
No, exactly right. And the story that we talked about the week prior, and the fact of how thin that silver market was, just
Mm.
because there wasn't metal in London. And obvious maybe in hindsight, but it does raise the question: what happens when participants start coming back and trading this market a little bit more actively? Does that create a scenario where there's some selling pressure as well? So, as you said, it depends on people's time horizons. If they were short-term traders and they just bought it back, say in February or whenever, but it speaks to the volatility that we're seeing in this market, no doubt.
That always reminds me also your job is to make money and to protect your capital, not to make the most money to the dime, if you know what I mean. And way too many people think of it in those terms. If they were shorter term investors, maybe they did extremely well. They would have this year alone, you
Yeah.
know. But again, I just remind people, don't get locked into that. Did I make every last dollar? Or, and because that really prevents, proper management of risk, et cetera, along the way. Interesting, though, this isn't the first time we've had this kind of thing where it gets tired on the momentum on the upside. I was thinking back to that 2008 financial crisis when we had the big rally first.
Exactly, Mike. And it just shows the type of movements that we can see in the gold space, and how it's impacted as well. And I think this is an important one, by other market dynamics. So you reference back to 2008, and it was when then gold rallied to 1,000 US the ounce almost, and corrected almost 30% down to 700 the ounce. So that's why it's not so shocking to hear people's calls say we could see gold retest 3,500,
Mm-hmm.
3,800, back below 4,000. So those kind of numbers are certainly out there for the precious metals, especially when we had a scenario where gold was rising by $100 a week by about 3 or 4 weeks in a row. So it was just, as it goes to the upside, I think you can see some of those retests of those key, what were resistance, now support levels from a technical perspective. I think the other thing, and this is an important note that I've heard made, is how gold has been tied to gold's performance in this period. It has never been this sort of scenario where you have such low stock market volatility, yet gold
Yeah.
has performed so well. So is gold telling us, maybe a flashing a warning sign about the stock market? And if we see a little stock market volatility, is that a scenario where you see some selling pressure on gold too? Because that's happened before as well.
Well, it continues to be top of the charts when people talking about it, looking at it, et cetera. We very much appreciate you finding time for us, Rob, and we'll put you on the spot again next week from Border Gold. Of course, you'll be writing for Border Gold before that, absolutely free once a week. Rob writes, bordergold.com. Rob, thank you.
Thanks, Mike.